Hi, everyone. So our next session is TDD with AI, presented by our special guest, Matthias. Matthias is a software engineer based in Berlin. Thank you for coming to COSCUP in Taipei, and we hope you enjoy the visit here. So Matthias specialized in Kotlin multi-platform to build solutions for Android. And he's a maintainer and developer of KMOP. And also he's the co-organizer of Kotlin User Group Berlin, GDG Android Berlin, Rust Berlin, and XTC Berlin. So without further ado, let's welcome him.
So that I don't have to scream. That's much better, right? So I need a timer because I'm notorious to speak too long. So unless you want to sit here with me for 3 hours, I wouldn't mind, but you would, I guess. So let's start. I want to talk to you today about test-driven development and AI. Subtitle, does it even work? Right? Thanks for the introduction. I was prepared to also make that. Right, I'm a senior software engineer at Termondo. Don't mind the company for several reasons, because it's not a use case in Taipei. Heat pumps, I think we have enough of heat today. I like to do Rust in my free time. I have a bunch of communities. I'm also organizing the DevFest in Berlin, by the way. If you want to apply for a talk, speak to me. And I'm also part of the extreme programming community in Berlin, or software crafts peopleship, stuff like that. If you want to talk about those topics, I'm also your person. And what wasn't mentioned, I'm a coin champion. Does anybody of you know what coin is? That's good, because that means then nothing. Nobody knows what a coin champion is then. That's great. So, and if you want to connect, I'm super prepared. I have a high-level QR code where you find my LinkedIn profile. You can just add me. I will also respond if you write something, if you have questions, and so on. Just give me a ping. And now I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. I hope everybody is done, because I go to the next slide. So what is to expect for this talk today? First of all, I want to focus not if we want to use it, and more like on how we want to use AI with test-driven development. That's for me very important, because I think the ship is sailed to say, do we do something with AI when we do something with software? The answer is, if we like it or not, more or less yes. But the question is how we can actually use it. Right? The second thing is I will make with you something very easy together, a small coding project for a small Android project, which was actually just a coding challenge from a company. I won't disclose which one. And last of it all, I want that this talk is just an entry point for a discussion. Because the interesting thing about this entire topic, AI, right? If I make this talk today, I will have a totally different result maybe in a week or maybe in a month. Because thankfully, these AI models are constantly improving or changing. If it's an improvement, that's a matter of discussion as well. And you can expect much, much more, because I'm notorious famous to make very dry jokes. So if you have a laughter, please do it. So what else? What's my agenda? I will go with you at the beginning about over the essentials of TDD, very briefly, just very, very shallow. So then I will discuss you why I use Gemini and nothing else, because I do my cycle with Gemini and not Copilot, not ChatGPT. There are reasons for it. So let me present you to that. Then we make a little bit hands-on, right? What I already said. And then I will give you a small conclusion from my perspective. And afterwards, if there is time, you can have some questions, or we can even make a small discussion if there is time left. I won't promise that. So a big shout out also to Valentina, because she did already a talk about that, I think a couple months ago at the beginning of this year. And she did it for JVM, and she was actually the point for my inspiration to also prepare a talk for Android. So if you find her on the internet, you can rewatch also her talk, which is a little bit different than what I do, but we come to surprisingly similar conclusions. So, and let me start a little bit with my motivation, why I even want to do something with AI, right? This topic is super overhyped. Everything is AI nowadays. You want to have a toilet seat with AI, right? Something like this. And the problem with this is through the overhype, what we actually do is we're producing some sort of fear in people like software developers, especially when it comes to junior developers, because they feel like, oh yeah, well, I won't have a job because AI will take over my job very, very soon. Is that true? I wasn't sure. So I was like keen to try it out, how good this AI even is. Right? And for instance, I think yesterday the GoTo conference even uploaded a small video about how intelligent LLMs, large language models, are. So if you have time, also watch that talk from the GoTo conference from this year. It's really good. I did it overnight. So the bigger question is, do we have to fear AI? I was really intimidated at the beginning because everybody around me over the last year was speaking, oh yeah, AI, it does that and that. It can write super good code. It writes super good tests and so on. And then you try it out, and out of a sudden, it's like a little bit disappointing, right? And it's just the beginning. So, and this second thing is I'm also mentoring some people around me. And for them, it's also very interesting because it's like handing a bomb to a child and see what's happening if it pokes it with a stick. And for them, it's very crucial because they feel very productive if they're using some sort of AI in their daily work. But are they more productive, or is it just an illusion? Do they learn still more in depth, or is it just more shallow nowadays, so that you don't have to really dig deep into the topics anymore? So that is my core motivation to look upon that. But overall, because I was really intimidated, and then I thought, yeah, where I know that from intimidation, right? Then I was thinking, what is TDD about, right? TDD, at least for me, and not only for me, I know that luckily, TDD is a method to actually deal with fear, right? Why am I writing a test? Because I want to prove that I'm correct, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, right? I want to deal with my fear. The second thing I want actually to take with TDD is I need a feedback loop, right? If I write something, I want to know very early, is the thing behaving the way I think it does, right? And next point is I want to be lazy, right? I just want not to switch my head on unless I really have to. I just want to sit there like a machine and type characters into my computer. And out of a sudden, everything works. And sometimes I need my brain, but only sometimes, but not 8 hours a day. So, and who had thought? It's also something we might figure out in AI ambitions, right? And there's much more. We can speak about that. And TDD, unfortunately, also makes fun over time. That's the weird stuff, right? You write a test, it doesn't run. That's bad. Then you write some code, it's green, and you feel great. That's awesome, but weird, right? You or I must have a mental disorder or something. No, but that's how TDD works. You get used to it, you find it great, and it makes you happy, and more happy over time. So, by the way, who from you is a TDD practitioner? That's good. I hope there will be more after this talk. So, and there's more why we want to do TDD, right? So, how does that work? Oh, no. First of all, a very famous quote, because about laziness and boredom. This quote is from Ken Beck, and he says, tests are the programmer's stone to transmute fear into boredom. What I said at the beginning, right? I'm a really fearful person. I'm coming from Germany, so we fear everything basically there. So, and then just to get out of go from out of this fear into a state of boredom, that's actually the goal, and that's what TDD does for you at the end of the day, right? So, and how does it conceptually work? Who know the three phases of TDD? Let's start with the first one. We write a failing test, right? Then we make the test pass. And then refactor our code. The refactoring is also very important. Many people forget about that. And that's the mantra you should actually have every day in the morning when you brush your tooth, or every day in the evening when you brush your tooth. You should think all the time, writing a failing test, making the test pass, refactor your code. Again, writing a failing test, making the test pass, refactor your code every day, at least 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening, until you're just thinking like that all the time long. And just to visualize that, that's this small picture you might know. We have those 3 phases: red, green, blue. Don't underestimate the blue. That's really important. I can't just emphasize this enough. Right? Because people forget, if you don't refactor your code gets messy, even if you have some very good testing practices. And when your test gets messy, normally that goes to a point where the test actually cleans up you, because you can't handle the project anymore. So refactoring is really, really important. And if you are doing it constantly, that saves you a lot of time. So why now we want to do AI? As I already mentioned, right, we want to be also here smart and not work harder. We want to do as less as possible because we have other stuff to do in life, and especially also in work. The second thing is we want to be lazy. That's the goal. Like with TDD, we want to be lazy. We don't want to switch our head on unless we really, really have to. Because in the end of the day, we just want to focus on the stuff which is important. Like if you have a very complex algorithm, there is where your mental capacity should go in, and not like on, oh yeah, I paint the button now. Paint the button is very easy, and you should not actually need your brain for that. That's something you can mitigate very easy. But if you have a very complex algorithm, like sorting or something, there is where your brain actually should work. So, and we can, of course, have much more motivation to use AI with TDD, but that's for now. So, why Gemini? First of all, it's free to use. So I don't like to spend money on stuff I might don't want to use. So for this talk, I of course also tried out something like ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot. But I feel like, is that money well invested? I'm not sure. I think Gemini is actually really the good compromise here. So the second thing is Gemini has a really low access barrier. If we think about that, right, we just need to start up Android Studio nowadays, and it's there. We don't have to install a plugin. We don't have to actually think about how we get the shortcuts, and it's built into the environment. And we can just use it. We don't have to do extra work, and it's for free. And last of it all, it's a little bit the underdog, right? And I have a tendency to go more to the underdogs because they might do something very good. People don't know about that, and I just want to figure that out. And one point I didn't mention yet is, as I mentioned earlier, I mentor some people, and some of those people don't have access to high standard quality internet because they are living in countries like South Sudan, right? And for them, and they also don't have the money to pay for so expensive services like ChatGPT. For them, this kind of money is actually quite a lot, and not like maybe for us, not so much. But if we want have also a brighter future for junior developers from another continent, right? We should provide them a low access barrier also on the financial level, and so on. That's why I'm really favoring Gemini over the others. So. And there's more. And now I need assistance, please, because now we come to the hands-on part. So, unfortunately, we don't have a standing microphone. Thank you very much. So, let me open the file browser. This is a small project. Let me give you a brief introduction. This project, as I mentioned before, was a small coding challenge, which the purpose was just to retrieve. Is that microphone still working? Yes. Just from some API, some stuff, and putting them on a screen and list them and sort them and stuff like this. And I was like, let's do it again, just not for books. Let's do it for movies. So I already started to implement some stuff. For example, we catch all the stuff from an API, and the API endpoint, I was so free to implement it already in Swagger or in OpenAPI, so that we can generate a client and don't have to write them by hand, because I like to be to do not stuff I don't have to do. So in the first task we will do is right now to implement the remote stuff. So, and if we do that, I already started, unfortunately. So let me delete this, right? The first step I normally do is writing a test, right? And what I wanted, because I already defined some interfaces in a contract, which you can see in a moment. That's much better. So where are my contracts? That are the tests. You see those nice contracts here. That's just for the local stuff. We have here a contract for the local DB for the books, and we will have a local contract for the movies, and the same goes for the remote, same, but different. So, and that's the first part we now implement, the remote stuff. So, because that's easier. And the first thing I normally do is like just saying, and that's a common mistake people forget to do when they do a TDD. They already want to go for gold. I make very small steps, and I only want to achieve the most easiest step I can achieve. And the easiest step in this regard is just to say, oh yeah, our unit, our movie remote just fulfills the contract. Contract, right? And Gemini actually has access to this repository, or not to this repository, to the code base. So it actually knows everything is what is here or was here. And fun thing is just to, that you see that I have a reserve, because sometimes I'm really slow at typing. So I already set all the tests up, and that's the test I want to have. That's the outcome. You will see it in a moment. And what we do is as next is we go here, we open Gemini. If I don't forget the shortcut, there's Gemini. And what I basically want to do is just that. I take the test, put in here, say submit, and now it does something in the internet that takes a short and brief moment. Then it says something. So wait. I hope my internet is fast enough. And did it do something? Yeah, it did something. Let's look about that. Oh no, that's what I had before. It didn't do what I wanted. Let's try again. Let's say make a test with, if I just can type, with it for movie contract. Try again, second try. I would be already done if I write it by hand. So now we wait again. Lovely internet. But it is live, right? So did I get what I wanted? So let me copy that. What I have now. So I copy everything. Just, I think it, you see I'm blind. I can just type here. Let me do this. Oh damn, doesn't work. Pity. And it generates a test for a movie DTO. That's not what we want. What we want is really just this, right? I go in here. I just copy-paste everything I have here right now. That's much, oh no, that's the wrong one. That's the right one. And actually, it really lays near the test. It could just look there and say, oh yeah, let me use that. And funnily, yesterday when I tried it just for the last possible moment to check if everything works, it actually did the right thing. So I think they changed the model again for reasons I don't know. So that's what I wanted to have. So now I have to fix all the inputs again. I think, oh no, okay. So now we have everything, right? So we can say it didn't work, right? The test, writing a test with AI didn't work at all. So, or Gemini. So that's what I actually wanted to have, create It doesn't want what I want to do. That's great. Thank you, IntelliJ. So let's do it by hand. Kotlin file, movies remote. I'm super nervous, as you see. We make this, private val. What I want to have is or let's call it API. Movies API, that's what we do for now, because the second step would be, right, where's our tests? And I did a small mistake because I skipped now a lot of steps, because I also have to keep the time in my eye. And if you want to know about something like this fulfills and stuff, you have to come tomorrow to my talk when I speak about testing on multi-platform, because this is also a multi-platform project, so be tuned. So let me import everything I need right now. Okay, it's not here, that's good. Import, lovely Ktor, content negotiation. So, and the last step I do right now is I go back to the implementation. And I already broke TDD in so many levels, if you might have mentioned. And we want the movie remote contract. So let me do this. So the next step would be to ask it, oh, please implement that. And there's a reason why I don't go through every test singly right now, because I can tell you the testing part won't be getting better. If we do at small steps the implementation with Gemini, we get similar results. It starts to make creepy stuff. So, and what we then do is simply, oh yeah, we take all our tests we have written, more or less. I need to import this as well. And what is missing? Run test. This is also a missing dependency. So, and I close this. So now it's working. Now I take the entire test set and say implement movie remote contract with the following tests. So I copy the tests and let's see what's happened. Yeah. Aside from waiting. And I mean, if you have good internet, that's much, much faster. I didn't expect to have slow internet here, honestly. So I have now an implementation. I just blindly copy it in. Let's see what it brings us. And oh damn, it uses something which doesn't work at all. Isn't that great? And it uses here the mock engine. Oh no, it actually, what does it do in this case? Yeah, it actually used the test set to create more tests. We don't need this one. That goes, now it's correct. This can go, we don't need those imports, but unfortunately our API doesn't seem to have a get movies. We have a get, we have just movies. So what we can actually here see that even though Gemini right now has access to all the code, know all the contracts or all the interfaces, it can't do the right thing. That's not entirely unexpected. Sometimes it does the right thing, sometimes it didn't. And unfortunately, it saw this code a couple times by now already, and it should actually know how to do the right thing. Bad stuff. So, and the last step, what I said, is refactoring, right? We can now ask it for refactor this portion of the code. Let's wait for it. And that looks much better. Let's put it in here. And why it's still complaining? It's just visibility. And here it's complaining because it doesn't do the right thing, unfortunately. So refactoring also in this case doesn't work. And you see what we want to implement is actually pretty easy. We have a very similar structured thing laying aside, which is the book remote. It does the exact same thing. It speaks more or less on a very similar level with an API. So what we could have done in a real world scenario is just in the end, at this stage, right, putting here braces, deleting this, putting another brace, and copy paste it in more or less. And this is not books, that is movies. So that would be the end phase after we have wrote, or we would have started most likely with the unhappy path, because that's much easier to fulfill, and then the happy path. And once we are on the happy path, we could have just copied from the book repository at the end of the day, and still we are in the TDD circle, and we would have been much faster. But let's try to refactor what we copy-pasted and ask again if it can make that more better. Actually, that should work. And that's really simple, right? That's not high quality code. That's super simple code, and we already failed in so many ways. So copy paste, and again. That looks good, right? That looks really like Kotlin. We have a equal sign at the end of the function. We have a run caching, which looks very nice. I would have not write it this way, because run caching, for me, it's not like really easy to compile in my head, but for some people it is. That's just a matter of taste. Let's run the tests, and believe me, the tests actually should run. That's the wrong one. That's the right test set. Let's run them. Yeah, and now comes the Gradle fun. Yeah, it runs. So, hooray. Our live coding example is done with that. Thank you. I take the microphone. So, and let's go back to the presentation. And that was really simple code again, right? It was nothing complicated. So, what are the observations? So first of all, we didn't do that, actually, generating a fixture. But if you, for example, say, oh, yeah, I have this DTO, and I need some values, you can just ask Gemini. We can actually do that very quickly. Just to, for the sake of argument, we could say we have the movie DTO, right? And we could say generate a fixture for movie DTO. So that takes also a while, and I can tell you it will make the right thing. And if you have big DTOs, for example, or you have a interface entity with a big portion of properties, almost the right thing. Where's the function? This is the function, because it tries to be smart. It actually makes a function. And it shouldn't use Java for reasons, because we are on multi-platform. But this is fine in this case. It generates more or less the right thing. So that's totally fine. And for that, it's really awesome, because if you have to do a lot of work where you say, oh yeah, I need this entity filled up with some parameters for a test, you can use that. For test dummies, it's super perfect. Also, for example, I had once the case that I had some ProGuard errors, and ProGuard is so nice and tells you, oh yeah, do this and this. You can just copy-paste the error output of ProGuard into Gemini and say, please generate me the ProGuard rules. It will do the right thing. That's really, really time-saving and works really well. I really like that. Refactoring, as we saw, when it can do the right thing, it makes it very idiomatic. So if you like it or not, it will do it. So if you want to have very idiomatic code, you can use Gemini, for example. I wouldn't, because I don't think that idiomatic code is always very easy to understand or very easy to write. But maybe I just become old. And the second thing, which we didn't show, but what you see always here, if we look at the window, you see all this description here, right? It will explain you quite a lot what it's doing and what you are supposed to do. And what it means, it's actually pretty good for, I should have clicked on the play, I'm super sorry. When you write documentation, you can use Gemini. Just throw the code in it and say, please generate some inline documentation. It will do a very, very great job on it. So, and there are more aspects which are good. If you have a large project where Gemini can go over a lot of code, and the project is really straightforward, and each feature looks or is structured in a very similar way, then it gets really better in doing stuff. And small projects, not so much. So what is the bad? So as you see, I have to go through the window, right? I don't have some inline features like with Copilot that I can just say in a comment, please generate me something, something. That's not built in an Android Studio yet. But in a future release, it will be there, inline functionality. You can already try it out with the latest Kani version of Android Studio. But honestly, I'm not so a big fan of that either yet, because I think they can improve that even further, that you have a similar workflow like in Copilot, that you really just write a comment and then click somewhere and it generates your stuff. Currently, you just get a tool window where you can enter your prompt and then it do something. So I find writing into the editor honestly better. So the second thing is, which we didn't saw because I didn't do that, when you do baby steps, like you write a test, you go on the production code, and you run the test again until it's green, and you make this ping pong game until you have implemented the entire unit. That doesn't work good at all. Actually, the implementation code breaks so often, you have to fix that, so you become more like a professional reviewer than anything else, unless you can go back in the production, in the test code and run the tests again. So that's something which I don't like at all, because that destroys the entire TDD focus circle. And the last bit is refactoring is very opinionated, right? As I said in the beginning, if you want to have idiomatic code, it's good. If not, you have to live whatever it pulls out, unless you do it yourself. So, and the ugly part. So we saw the red phase, so writing a test doesn't really checks out right now, at least not with Gemini. With Copilot, you get slightly better results, but Copilot, unfortunately, doesn't respect, for instance, if you have some custom-made assertions, or if you have some helper tools to make your tests more easy, it doesn't use them. It just comes up with some other tools which might even not in your repository yet. So I'm not so a big fan of that. So red phase doesn't work. If we increase the complexity in what we want to do, the results get more and more worse. So the problem, or the reason for that, is very simple, because complex stuff is not mostly seen by any test set of the language model, or they can not just relate what you are doing to a complex thing it already saw. So that's why with more complexity in your code, the results will decay. So your code will decay, which you don't want to have. And as you see, I was at some point more distracted, or was more struggling using the prompt window than the actual task, writing code. And that's something I also don't like, because our focus should be solely on writing code and not like writing prompts for writing code. So, and refactoring breaks, and sometimes everything else as well. So, and let's come to the conclusion part. So, and there is one study currently on the market which has a little bit from Git Clear, coding on Copilot. There they made some reviews how people, or how the environment changed with Git Copilot over the last year. So what they saw, for instance, that refactoring decreases, that we see an increase in copy-paste of code, and what we also see is code come, which means in the end that people tend to roll back more than before. And the reason for that is very simple. As you might see, people just check in stuff which they didn't check because maybe they don't do TDD, so they don't see it in the tests. They just ship that, push that, and then out of the sudden they see, once they are in a pipeline, or even worse in production code, the stuff they just pushed break. So they have to roll back. And with the introduction with Get Copilot, that even increased. So you can read it in the study paper here, how they measure that exactly. I really recommend it. It's just 10 pages. So, and what we can conclude overall is code quality, if you use AI, is actually decreasing instead of increasing right now. This hopefully will change over the next 2 to 3 years. Google is really hard pushing for it. And not only Google, also Microsoft and all the other players. For example, a friend of me is really into the topic, and he trained a custom llama model, and that works perfectly for him. Right? He sent it to me. I was like, okay, I try it, and it doesn't fit to my coding style, and it breaks. So if you have time and you're bored, and just make your own llama model, it will work perfectly for you and your products, but not for everybody else. So, and my own conclusion is like, in terms of productivity increases, you get them if you stick to the simple tasks right now. And that's good. That's, for me, already a big gain out of this topic. Just that I don't have to write my fixtures by hand or use some library to generate that. That's perfect, right? I think also for people with more intermediate knowledge in their environment, it's also giving them more productivity increases. So they can use it a little bit more effectively if they know when to use it and when not to use it. And as I said at the beginning, for beginners, I think it's not a good idea, because they won't know what they are doing and think, oh yeah, the thing gives me the right thing, and actually it even didn't work. So, and with that, I'm already in the end. If you want to give feedback, I have a very high elaborated Google form. Please fill that out so I can improve the talk. So, and I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And with that, we are almost done, because I hope that you have questions, or we can even have a small discussion. So who wants to start? So let me be the host and run around. Even better.
I just turn it on. Wow. Okay, that's how. Have you tried like Anthropic's Claude, like 3.5 Sonnet? I've been using that with like Source Graph. I don't think it's available in Android Studio, so it's like VS Code mostly. Nope. And I found that Claude 3.5 Sonnet to actually give pretty good answers, a lot better, at least for me, what I found than Copilot. I haven't tried Gemini at all.
That's good, but no, I didn't try that. I know that, for instance, if you use Copilot with TypeScript, you get very good results, because the code base on GitHub for TypeScript is huge.
Yeah.
If you compare it to a Kotlin, which is much, much smaller, it's not a surprise that the results are so differentiating depending on the language you're using.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
More questions?
Actually, have you asked the audience like how many people use like
yeah, it's
AI?
like AI, right? I did
like AI for coding.
Yeah.
Like, do you use it in like your work?
So, do you have similar impressions, or you think it's so much better? Who of you is doing Android or Kotlin multi-platform? So, not so many folks. So, and the rest, I think, is doing something with web or Python, right? Yes. So, for Python and web, it actually works okay-ish, right? Yes? Also for the TDD people, does it work also good? Sometimes. So, you see, for me, for Kotlin, where the code base is not that huge, it doesn't work at all. Yeah, of course, I will do a React Native now, just for the sake. But the result of that is not really surprising, I think. So if you have some points to share, please do. If you say, oh yeah, the generated tests with AI are so great, so I can read them so easily, or stuff like that. So Okay. Use the microphone in front.
I want to ask a question. Can I?
Yeah,
ask,
sure.
If my boss asks me, using AI to assist your unit test, that means you need to upload your code onto ChatGPT or something AI model. And does it have a security risk if my boss asks me like this? I don't know how to explain it to my boss.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid question because the entire legal problem which is behind that is not clear right now. And that also depends on national law. I have no idea how that works in Taiwan, honestly. I can just say from a German perspective, we are in a very grayish zone here because who is actually the point of origin of the code in the end of the day? Is it still you as a person or not? And that had some very deep legal consequences in Germany. So that's why every boss in Germany will tell you right now, unless he is very progressive, don't use it at all for your code. Security is not really an issue right now because they didn't even figure out the legal stuff beforehand. And then if it comes to security issues, I have no idea, honestly, what to say because not ChatGPT, Git Copilot already uses it anyways. Everything is what is on Git available. So if you use Git for that, it doesn't matter. If you have your private hosted GitLab, then it does matter, I guess.
Thank you.
Where do you host your code?
So anybody else?
Where do you host your code?
Or IntelliJ, Java.
Like, do you use GitHub?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So more questions.
Hi. I have one question. And how about your opinion on observation? Because you thought use AI tool could decrease the refactoring, so it's equal to decrease the code quality. Could you explain more about this part?
You mean this slide, right?
Right. Thank you.
So the refactoring is only one point of that. It's more interesting how they measure that because it's about code additions and code deletions, right? So what they see is that code is not so much deleted anymore, it's more added. So, and that means like there's not a refactoring happening anymore. And why those 3 points, it's all 3 of them, mean that there is a decrease of quality. If you have to constantly reword your code, reword what you did before, that tells something that your thing you want to achieve doesn't really work out, right? So, and when we say, when we speak about quality, is more like you do your programming task, right? And once you are done, it actually works in the way you think it does, and not like, oh, damn, it doesn't work, I have to reword. And you do it again, and the same happens again and again. And refactoring is part of that, because you, of course, can improve your solutions you have, right? You might make them smaller, or might make them more efficient, or maybe you have a totally different approach which solves the same problem but is much better. But people don't tend to do that anymore. And with copy and paste, I think this is clear, because that means we might do this very same thing all over again and again and again, and don't dry out our code anymore. Makes that sense? Cool, thank you. So anybody else? Go ahead.
Okay, hello. I can give everyone 2 suggestions for TDD and AI. I am front-end developer, and I use VS Code and Copilot. Okay, first, if you watch VS Code YouTube, VS Code says you have to give some Copilot some context. So first, you have to maybe copy some documentation from Jira, or maybe backend Swagger, copy that into your VS Code, and okay, VS Code Copilot will know what testing should Copilot generate, and so you give the context and the testing, and you have the second one is you have to write some testing manually, and VS Code will take a reference from your testing. Okay, now VS Copilot know, okay, I have to write some testing for React. Maybe I used testing library in React. So, Copilot know, okay, I have to use testing library, this framework for React. This is 2 suggestions. Thank you.
So just to say that with the context, with Android Studio, you have the possibility to enable the context or disable the context. For this project, the context was enabled, so it knows everything already.
Yes, so I think you have to get Gemini some context, maybe more documentations, so they can generate better testing and the code.
So I think with that we can close, or anybody else? So last question, because then we are at 45 minutes.
Hi. I would like to ask that you have used Gemini for the task, and sometimes before there's some open source model which is fine-tuned for code generation, something like Code Llama or other else. Do you have compared the performance of Gemini and this kind of open source fine-tuned LLM for the code generation?
What are your metrics for measuring that?
I think this is subjective, like the quality of generated code. I think is.
So honestly, I checked out some local models because they solved the problem with not having an internet connection, right? And I made the experience, actually it works good when you have trained them. But the problem with local self-trained Llama models is you have to train them. So you can't just go and give them to somebody else and say use that, because that Llama model is trained to your habit in the end of the day, your kind of your style of coding. And I'm really opinionated when it comes to code, how I write my code. So for instance, I couldn't give my mentees those models because they can't leverage them because they have their own style. So if you just want to use it yourself, as I said somewhere in the talk, perfect. If you also have the knowledge and the time to train a model, perfect, go for it. But if not, what you do? Then you fall back to tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Git Copilot, right? And then we are here. So, and with that, thank you, and enjoy the rest of the course cup.